shadow frequency, where the veil between this world and the next grows thin. The things that whisper in the dark are given voice. From the cryptic candlelit studios, deep in the Indiana forests, your host, Matt Wilson, and his spectral producer, Juniper Ravenwood, unearth the forbidden, the forgotten, and the fearsome. So, still your heart, dim the light, and listen closely. For once you tune into the shadow frequency, you may never tune out.
From the shadows of the unknown to the mysteries they don't want you to see, this is The Shadow Frequency. I'm Matt Wilson.
And I'm Juniper Ravenwood, back at the file cabinet again tonight, which, by the way, is starting to feel less like office furniture and more like a portal with bad intentions.
That thing has not brought us one normal item yet.
Now let's see what it's hiding tonight. Well, that's unsettling. It's a payphone receiver with the cord cut, but you can still hear breathing on the other end.
No, absolutely not. Put that one right back where it came from.
It's too late for that. And here we go. A motel room Bible with one page torn out cleanly. No note, no room number, no explanation, just one missing piece.
Why is it always the missing piece that makes it worse?
Because whatever belongs in that gap is probably still out there. Here it is, tonight's case.
Episode 297, Midnight over Alaska, JAL Flight 1628.
A cargo jet crossing the frozen dark, a veteran crew staring out into the night, and something impossible pacing them high above the Alaskan wilderness.
Tonight, we head into one of the most chilling UFO encounters ever reported from the cockpit of a commercial aircraft.
Locking your heading, keep your eyes on the dark, and whatever you do, don't assume you're alone up there.
This is The Shadow Frequency, Episode 297, Midnight over Alaska, JAL Flight 1628.
You are tuned to the shadow frequency, where every whisper tells a story from beyond the veil. Hosted by Matt Wilson, produced by Juniper Ravenwood, with Chris Beach. The darkness continues.
Tonight, we're opening a file that feels like it should be rimmed with frost and locked in a steel drawer marked "Do Not Fly After Dark." November 17th, 1986, a Japan Airlines cargo 747 is cutting across the Alaskan night on Keflavik to Anchorage leg of its route. And somewhere out there over the wilderness, the crew starts seeing lights that do not behave like ordinary traffic. Then radar chatter joins in. The word starts spreading that something huge may have been flying beside them.
And that is exactly the kind of icy nightmare I like. Dark sky, freight run, veteran crew, and something pacing a jumbo jet over Alaska. Yeah, let's crack that file open.
Because whether it was a genuine unknown, a trick of radar, or something far stranger, this one has haunted UFO history for decades. Matt, take it away.
Thanks, Juniper, for digging into the file cabinet and pulling out one of those cases that still gives people goosebumps. This is JAL Flight 1628, November 17th, 1986. A Japan Airlines Cargo 747 on the Iceland to Anchorage leg of a run ultimately headed for Japan, crossing the deep cold over Alaska with Captain Kenju Terauchi, First Officer Takanori Tamafuji, and Flight Engineer Yoshio Sakuda in the cockpit. It's late afternoon, sliding toward darkness, the kind of Alaskan sky where everything feels bigger, emptier, and a little too quiet. And then the quiet breaks. According to the FFA chronology, at about 0219 UTC on November 18th, still November 17th in Alaska, the pilot asks Anchorage Center for traffic information. The controller says there's no traffic nearby, but the crew says they've got something in front of them, same direction, about a mile ahead, apparently at their altitude. When they're asked what they can make out, the answer is unsettlingly thin. White and yellow strobes. Not a normal, comfortable identification. Just lights in the dark ahead of a 747 freighter over the Alaskan interior. A few minutes later, the tension jumps. The crew says the traffic is now visible on their onboard radar around the 11 o'clock position at roughly 8 miles. Anchorage Center reaches out to the Military Regional Operations Control Center, the ROCC, and asks if they're getting anything near the JAL aircraft. The reply comes back that they are seeing a primary radar return in roughly JAL's 10 o'clock position at 8 miles. Right there is where the story starts to harden from campfire tale into something colder. Now it isn't just a pilot squinting into darkness. Now there's radar language in the room too. The crew's own early interview notes make this even creepier. Terauchi said the object or objects showed yellow, amber, and green lights with a rotating beacon but no red lights. He described 2 distinct sets of lights that seemed joined together and said what he saw looked at least as large as a 747, maybe larger. The lights shifted from a horizontal arrangement to a vertical one and moved from ahead of the aircraft over to the port side. In the notes taken right after the landing, the crew said they could see lights but not the craft itself, just the glow, the arrangement, the presence. That somehow makes it worse. Not a machine you can name, just a shape implied by light. And Terauchi's description didn't stay mild. In later reporting and in his own written account, he spoke in almost stunned terms, saying the cockpit lit up and he felt warmth on his face when the strange lights came close. He would later talk about a much larger object, the thing that fed the mothership legend, as being enormous, dwarfing conventional expectations and turning a pilot's sighting into a full-blown aviation nightmare. That's the image people remember, not just odd lights, but a giant presence moving in the dark with a cargo jet over Alaska. Back in real time, Anchorage is trying to keep up. At 0231, JAL tells controllers the plane is quite big, and the controller approves any course deviations needed to avoid the traffic. At 0232, JAL asks for and receives a descent from flight level 350 to flight level 310. Asked whether the traffic is descending too, the pilot says it is descending in formation. Think about how chilling that sounds. Whatever they believe is out there, it is not drifting away, it is responding, matching, staying with them. Then near Fairbanks, the crew gets even more aggressive trying to shake it. They request and receive heading changes, and eventually the aircraft is issued a 360-degree turn with instructions to report whether the traffic stays with them. According to both the FFA chronology and the notes taken from the crew after landing, it did. Terauchi said the object maintained its position on the left side during the turn. That is one of those details that lodges in your brain. A giant cargo jet banking in a wide circle over Alaska, and the thing beside it simply keeps station like it belongs there. And then comes one of the most famous lines in the whole case. At 0238, the ROCC calls Anchorage Center and says they have confirmed a flight of 2 in JAL's position, adding that they have some other equipment watching it and that one was a primary target only. Not long after, JAL reports losing sight of the traffic, then reports it again off the side. The radar language, the shifting positions, the sense that something is there and then half not there, that is exactly what helped make this case legendary. It feels slippery and official at the same time. By the time the aircraft continued south, the story had become the kind of thing that mutates instantly into legend. Veteran cargo crew, mysterious lights, onboard radar, military chatter, evasive maneuvering, and a dark sky over Alaska big enough to hide anything. The crew would later say the sighting ended around 40 miles north of Talkeetna. But by then, the legend had already been born. Somewhere between Fort Yukon, Fairbanks, and the long black road to Anchorage, JAL 1628 had become one of the most talked about airline UFO encounters in modern history. And that's the part that gets under my skin. Not just lights in the distance, but something that seemed to answer every move they made.
Yeah, that's not a "we maybe saw something weird" story. That's a "something flew with us in the dark" story.
Exactly. And in the second half, we get into what happened after landing, the interviews, the headlines, the mothership reputation, and the part of this case that still has people arguing all these years later.
So far, we've got a cargo 747 over Alaska, a seasoned crew, strange lights ahead of the aircraft, radar chatter that only deepens the unease, and a story that somehow gets more unnerving the more official paperwork you look at. Right now, some of you are probably all in on the idea that JAL 1628 flew beside something truly unknown, and some of you are probably waiting for the other shoe to drop. Either way, don't wander off into the snow just yet. Let's hand it over to Chris for a moment.
Thanks, Juniper. If the shadow frequency is part of your weekly listening routine, do us a favor and hit like and subscribe wherever you're listening. It may sound simple, but that really helps us with the algorithms and helps more people discover the show. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Rumble. And you'll also find us on all the major podcast directories. For everything in one place, visit shadowfrequencypodcast.com. That's where you'll find the full episode library, our companion blog, merch store, show notes, and ways to contact the show by email or voice message. You can also buy us a coffee there if you'd like to help keep things rolling. Back over to Juniper.
All right, thanks, Chris. Time to fire up the spectral cosmic message materializer. Let's flip the switches. Let's see what comes rattling through the ether. Ah, there it is, a curious little transmission caught in the static.
Message retrieved from the void.
Let's ease it out of the ghost slot and unfold what our listeners sent in from beyond that noise. Says, "Hey guys, this is Danica from Montana. I listen on Pandora and just wanted to say how much I enjoy the Shadow Frequency. I love all the different topics you cover, and one thing I really like is that the episodes don't go on forever until you get bored. They're just the right length, enough to whet your appetite and send you down the rabbit hole wanting more. Keep up the great work, Danica from Montana." Well, Danica from Montana, I like that. That is an awesome note, and I love that phrase, just enough to whet your appetite. That's kind of the whole Shadow Frequency mission, isn't it? We hand you the flashlight, point you toward the dark hallway, and then let your imagination do the rest. Thanks so much for listening on Pandora and taking a minute to write in. And if you want to send your own strange little signal through the static, hit us up at shadowpodcast@protonmail.com. We love hearing where you listen, what episodes creep you out the most, and what rabbit holes you want us to tumble down next. Matt, let's head back in through the Alaska night.
You are tuned to the Shadow Frequency, where every whisper tells a story from beyond the veil. The darkness continues.
Thanks, Juniper and Danica. Really appreciate that. All right, let's step back into this one. JAL 1628 lands in Anchorage, and the story does not stay in the cockpit. FFA personnel interview the crew that same evening. In those notes, the flight crew is described as normal, professional, rational, and not under the influence of drugs or alcohol. The captain provides drawings. The crew reports that the lights had accompanied them from Alaska-Canada border area down along the route toward Fairbanks and Anchorage. So right away, this isn't treated like a joke. It's treated like a serious report connected to air safety. Then the media gets a hold of it, and the case starts to roar. By late December and early January, headlines are pushing the idea that a UFO had been confirmed on FFA and Air Force radar. Contemporary reporting said the FFA reopened its inquiry in part because if something really had been in that corridor, it represented a possible airspace violation. That matters because it explains why the case grew beyond a spooky pilot tale. This became an aviation story, an official story, a paperwork story, which is exactly the kind of thing that gives a mystery long life. And this is where the legend of the mothership really takes off. ROCC later described a much larger object after the first lights, a huge presence off the side of the aircraft. In public retellings, that object became the towering centerpiece of the case, the thing believers point to when they say this was no misread star, no little blip on a scope. You've got a veteran captain, a giant craft, military radar chatter, and a jumbo jet making turns while the unknown remains nearby. It has every ingredient of a modern aviation ghost story, except this one came with memos and transcripts. But here's the turn in the file, the part where the cold air changes direction. The later FFA review did not end with a giant alien craft proven on radar. In the December 18 Anchorage Center memo, the FFA said radar data recorded by Anchorage Center did not confirm the traffic reported by Flight 1628, and the chronology ends by stating a subsequent review failed to confirm any targets in close proximity to the aircraft. Then, in the FFA's March 5, 1987 release, Paul Stuck said the second radar target was not another aircraft at all, but a split radar return. Technically an uncorrelated primary and beacon target return, giving the impression of two separate targets.
Huh?
That's the skeptical gut punch in the case. The very thing that made it feel so official, radar, is also where the later undercutting happens. Add to that the fact that a northbound United Airlines jet was vectored to look, established visual contact with the JAL aircraft, and saw nothing else nearby. Skeptical analysis at the time also noted that a United States Air Force C-130 in the area reported seeing JAL but no other object, and argued that at least some of what ROCC described may have involved bright celestial objects such as Jupiter in the southeastern sky. And there's another wrinkle that keeps the case from ever settling down neatly. The crew did not all describe the event in exactly the same way when later interviewed. In the skeptical review of the FFA materials, the flight engineer came across as more uncertain, saying he was not sure whether what he saw was a UFO or not, while the co-pilot confirmed the initial unusual lights but was less dramatic about the larger object. Critics also pointed out that ROCC reported another sighting in the same general area on January 11th of 87, and that later event was attributed by the FFA to village lights diffused by ice crystals during a temperature inversion.
Huh?
So what do we do with JAL 1628? For me, that's why it endures. Believers can point to the immediate reports, the military chatter about a primary target and a flight of two, the captain's conviction, and the eerie fact that the crew felt shadowed enough through changes in altitude and heading. Skeptics can point to the later radar non-confirmation, the split target explanation, the other aircraft seeing nothing, and the inconsistencies that crept in when the story spread. Both sides walk away feeling like they've got something real in their hands. But as a side note, remember this. The truth came out very early in the Roswell situation, and then the truth came out later. But what still gets me is this. Even if the final answer is radar artifact and misidentification, that does not erase the experience inside the cockpit. 3 men in the dark believed something was out there with them over Alaska. They requested course changes. They descended. They turned. They watched lights move from ahead of the plane to the side. They listened to controllers and military operations talk about returns in their vicinity. For those minutes over the wilderness, the sky around JAL 1628 stopped feeling empty. And maybe that's the real reason the case never quite dies. Not because it conclusively proves aliens, but because it captures that awful primal feeling that something may be pacing you just beyond the glass. Even now, almost 40 years later, the case still hovers in that cold space between documented event and unresolved legend. One side says the paperwork takes it down to earth. The other says the paperwork is exactly what makes it extraordinary. And somewhere in between is that black Alaskan sky, swallowing shapes, reflecting lights, bending certainty, and leaving one stubborn question hanging there with the frost. If it wasn't a mothership, what in the world made that crew feel hunted in the dark? That's what stays with me. Not proof, not debunking, just that image of a 747 crossing frozen darkness with something keeping pace where nothing should have been.
Yeah, whether it was alien, atmospheric, or a perfect storm of fear and technology, it is still wildly unsettling.
And that's why JAL 1628 remains one of those files you never really close. You just slide it back in the drawer and wonder if it belongs there.
Tonight, we flew back through one of the most famous aviation UFO cases ever recorded, JAL Flight 1628 over Alaska. Strange lights, radar chatter, a giant object legend, and just enough conflicting evidence to keep the mystery alive all these years later. Thanks for hanging out with us in the shadows tonight. Don't forget, you can email us anytime at shadowpodcast@protonmail.com. You can also find more episodes, merch, and more strange stuff at shadowfrequencypodcast.com. We'll be back soon with another strange case from somewhere out there in the dark. Matt, you want to say goodnight?
Keep your eyes on the sky, and good night, everybody.
Good night from all of us at the Shadow Frequency. Stay strange.
This episode was conjured with a solemn vow to explore the unexplained while remaining bound to the truths that have been unearthed. All interpretations are speculative and offered only for your enlightenment and your